weekend I went to a ball in Seattle called Venice Is Sinking. This was my first time going, but it's an annual ball. I know they've had it a lot of times previously. I think this was like the 16th or 17th year that they've had it. I'd never heard of it prior to this year. I found out about it like a month after it happened last year, and I have been really excited to want to go. I got to go with my best friend since high school, and that was super fun. I made my outfit, and it's the most ambitious thing I've ever made ever. I'm pretty excited to talk about it. First things first. This was my chemise. It's black chiffon, so definitely not historically accurate. However, the method of making this was relatively historically accurate. It's kind of made by taking a long bit of yardage, folding it in half, and then cutting the sleeves out so it kind of looks like a cross, and then fold it in half, seam up the sides, and then cut a hole for the neck. And then I added elastic. Normally you would do a drawstring, but I did want this to show over the top a little bit so you could see this ruffle. So that's not as historically accurate as it could have been, but it suited my purposes very nicely. The second is my corset. I did accidentally and stupidly use steam one of the times when I was ironing this, and it has fusible interfacing. I flatlined all of the like fashion fabric pieces. So it's like a little bit wobbly in parts where that glue is separating, and I'm deeply upset by that. I really worked for my purposes really well. I was able to get quite the waist reduction, and I really learned a lot making this. I have spiral steel boning in this center instead of a busk. I did that because I wanted to be able to sit comfortably, and I could sit comfortably, I'll say that. I do think having flat steel would have like held this sturdier so there would be less wrinkling, because it is rather wrinkly. It was kind of a game time decision, but I sewed this little piece of trim at the top to create like kind of a straight across neckline, and also add some interest that I kind of think brought some cohesion from the underlayers to the outer layers. I'll be honest, getting this on is difficult because I don't have that front busk, so it really has to go on like over the head like this. It was actually a really comfortable corset as far as corsets go. It's actually somewhat uncomfortable to take off once I've been wearing for a long time, because it's so supportive up here that when you take it off, the like absence of that support is like really noticeable. I didn't make these panniers. They kept flipping up like this once they were on, and that was so frustrating for me. I had to keep adjusting them, and the dress and the skirts are all rather heavy, so adjusting it once it was all on was a huge pain. I took washers, like little washers, and I sewed them around the thing, and so it like it weights it down really nicely. Okay, so now we got the petticoats. So it's basically two fabric widths that were 50 inches long. I sewed the side seams together with French seams. I left obviously like a bit of a gap here on each side, so I could get into it easily and access my pocket. First, I like measured with my panniers on the distance from like my waist to the floor in the front, and then over the panniers. In the spirit of measure twice, cut once, I should have remeasured, but I didn't before I cut it. And so you kind of cut the yardage to go like long at the sides, short in the middle and back, and then long at the sides again. However, I mismeasured the front by about 3 inches. So, which actually, not historically accurate, probably didn't look good. Very convenient, because it meant the front and back both like went in a little arc. They arced up a little bit, which meant I couldn't step on my hem. No matter what I did, there was just simply no hem of my petticoat if I stepped back or if I stepped forward. I didn't have to worry about that, so it was an accident, but it was an accident that like I kind of liked as far as wearability goes. It's easier to put on myself. You tie it in the front, and you straighten everything out, and you tie it in the back. I was really nervous about making this before I started because I just had never really made anything like this before and I was nervous about it. It was so easy. I completed it like in a morning. And then also, it leaves like a little gap so you can access your pocket. How nifty is that? Don't show your panniers. So pretty! You can't tell me this isn't the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Okay, before I put it on the thing, I just want to show some of this embellishment. The problem with Joann's going under is that it's kind of hard to get ribbon the way that I used to. I love shopping local, and I'm really fortunate to have a super great fabric store really close to my new place. I moved, obviously. Modern Domestic is really nearby where I live now. However, they don't have a giant wall of ribbon. So I wanted black ribbon, and I kind of decided that's the direction I was gonna go. Literally the day before I had to leave for Seattle, I ran to Modern Domestic like 15 minutes before closing. They didn't really have black ribbon. This is like seam binding. It's ribbon-esque, but it's not ribbon. It's like a really open weave, and it's like it's falling apart. Like, I think that lacing this up right here is gonna be the last time I can use this lacing. And I mean, I have every intention of getting a black ribbon to use to lace this, though I really like the look of it with this black ribbon. Isn't she beautiful? That's the look. I'm really happy with it. I'm just so happy with how it turned out. I really like that this overdress is separate from the under things because this is my baby kitten. Her name is Sophie, and if you'll see, it's like a similar look, but she's white of tummy. So I feel like I can just make a new corset and new petticoat, and I can go as this perfect baby angel for Halloween, but just like with cat ears. And if anyone asks, I'm like, this is a reasonable costume for me to wear to be a cat. Say hi. Say hi. She loves me. She just wants to go look at birds right now. Look at her tum-tum. Okay. A little commotion for the back of the dress. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? I actually got all the fabric at different times. Everything is from Fabric Wholesale Direct except for this tulle overlay. And I got this on Etsy. And actually it was lost in the mail for like a week. And I had originally intended on having this overlay also on the bodice, but it was just like lost. I had just come to the conclusion that I was gonna have to get started without this overlay. And so I got the bodice made, and then this showed up. So I was able to use it in this manner for the dress, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I think it might have honestly been kind of overkill to have it up here. I don't know, that does look pretty. I was building the plane as I flew it. I had like no plan. I just wanted to have these little floppy things, and I love them. Usually when I have a sewing project and I get to the end and I'm like done with it, I like step back and I'm like, well, I could have made several different choices, but I didn't, so I guess we're done now. That is not how I feel about this. I am in love with her. I'm so happy. I just think it was gorgeous. I had the best time at the ball. I really loved the hotel that I got ready in. I know it's kind of silly to say, but I almost had a better time in the hotel than I had at the ball. Haley, my best friend, came over and we like got ready together, and it was just like super fun. And the hotel was like gorgeous and like old. It was built around the turn of the century, not as a hotel, but as like a club, like, I don't know, like a dining club, I guess. It's called the Arctic Club, and you could just tell it was really old but beautiful. It was like a 4-star hotel. They had a gorgeous lobby, and they let me take some pictures on these like marble stairs that they had in the lobby. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. If you come to Seattle for a fancy event, you should stay at a fancy hotel. and the Arctic Club was like super affordable in my opinion for how incredible it was. I can't recommend it enough. They did not pay me. I paid my own money to stay there. So this, not sponsored, though they should sponsor me, and I will happily go there. Flouncing around in my fabulous dress with my best friend in an incredible hotel after going to a bar was amazing. I feel like I didn't talk enough about the actual ball itself. So Venice Is Sinking is an annual ball that happens in Seattle. It's put on by Epiphany Events, and my understanding, though it could be flawed, is that it is Venetian Carnival themed every year, and then they have like an additional theme tacked over top of it. This year the additional theme was wedding, and they had a wedding there, like an improv wedding. When I bought my ticket, it said that like ticket buyers would be assigned a role in the wedding, and I was never assigned a role. That could have been a skill issue. Maybe I was supposed to do something, or like maybe that was only for VIP people. I'm also not sure. I just purchased a GA ticket, like the bottom tier GA. It was still like $100 and something. And since this was my first year, that was like the level of buy-in that I was comfortable with. There was like little events that happened throughout the ball. There were acrobats, like a couple different kinds of acrobats on aerial silks. There was music the whole time, but there was like a couple live musicians that played like violin covers of pop songs, which was super fun. It was just like a delight. It was like truly a feast for all the senses. There was just a lot going on. I had an absinthe fountain, and absinthe is one of my favorite things. I barely drink it all anymore. However, if the function has absinthe, I'm going to be having some absinthe, particularly if it is in fountain form. So I was delighted about the absinthe fountain. I was so happy about that. I continue to be happy about that. I'm just happy there was an absinthe fountain. They also had a bar with cocktails. I was looking for like a list of cocktails, partially because I really like seeing what the list of cocktails is. I didn't see one. There might have been one earlier in the evening. The only time I like actually went to the bar was at the very end of the evening, and I had seen people with this like interesting like purple beverage, and I went up and I just ordered. I was like, I've just been seeing the prettiest purple drink. Can I have one of those? I don't care what it is. And the bartender acted like this was a very weird request. And I think that's because it was a gin and tonic, and the gin was just like the Empress purple gin. I had a very weird way of ordering a gin and tonic, and the bartender thought it was weird. And to be fair, she was right. But it was a good gin and tonic. Though at that point, I think my like baseline level of excitement was so high that she could have literally just handed me a glass of water and I would have been delighted. Oh, one thing that was really fun was all the drinks, like whether it be absinthe or my cocktail or whatever, were served in like actual glassware. I feel like I go to so many like interesting, cool, fun events, and all the drinks are served in these like plastic cups. And it's like a little detail, but it really takes you out of like the immersion. You know, you're like at this immersive ball, everyone's in this, you know, and my dress, I might add, totally middle of the road, 5 out of 10. Like there were people with like less buy-in than me for sure, and then there were so many people with the most beautiful, intricate costumes you've ever seen in your life that like I can't even imagine how much time they spent on them. They were just incredible. There was a costume contest, and the woman that won was wearing this incredible sackback, like robe à la française, that was like also a peacock. I can't even explain it. It was just incredible. It was so beautiful. Anyway, I go to a lot of events where you're in this incredible, beautiful dress, costume, whatever, and then everything you drink is like served in just like a plastic cup. And it's like kind of a bummer. Like I don't want to be at a ball and drink out of a plastic cup, though I understand why. And I know you're probably wondering, well, I bet someone probably broke a glass. And someone did. Also, there was a little thing that had gelato, and I like gelato. I got the raspberry sorbet gelato. It was incredible. All in all, it was great. I'm looking forward to next year, And I hope I find more of these events to go to. My understanding is that there is a vampire themed one in Portland every year. And I had a family friend growing up who went to that. I love vampire stuff. Like Dracula's like one of my favorite books, and I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I like it to the point where I have comics of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So getting to dress up is like a over-the-top vampire. Sounds like heaven to me. So thank you very much for listening to me talk about the fun ball I went to and the beautiful dress I made for the ball. I would love people to let me know if they have like an event that's similar to this that happens around them. Bonus points if it's in the Pacific Northwest. Please, please, please let me know in the comments if there's something like this that happens near you. I've been like trying to do research and stuff, and I found like a handful of like calendars, but they're like pretty incomplete. This is my whole personality now. There will be more of these, I hope. Bye!